what's that guy? Ross
Tucker.
Ross Tucker. All right, ready to record?
Yep. We're live.
Okay, hi everybody. Mike and Brooke. And I remember a long time ago when the Cleveland Orchestra hired Christoph von Dohnanyi, WCOV. This is like late 70s, says, "We have a conductor." And I feel I've had that blast from the past. We have a head coach. So Brooke, let's do a deep dive. I'll first add my 2 cents, which is the more I read about it, the more I like this pick. So you go first.
I think first reaction, I was pretty pissed. And then the more, I have sports radio on when I'm working, listen to podcasts when I'm driving or working out. The more I kind of thought about it, listened to it, I woke up today thinking, I think they made the right call. I am looking back at it now. I am glad that they didn't hire that young kid from the Rams. I mean, he's never called plays, so
Never called plays.
Jimmy Haslam probably was like, I'm not risking another debacle on a 30. He's probably my age. Some young guy who's never called plays.
35.
35.
Well, he had a paper out though, right?
And
He had a lawn cutting business in college.
Probably wash cars and make some side money. But, and just, with Schwartz, it's like, they probably talked to him and they probably just didn't like what he had to say. I think, I go back to what the Baltimore Ravens owner said when they fired John Harbaugh. The reporter asked him, so is Lamar going to have input on your next head coach? And he was like, I'm not letting a player decide who my next head coach is.
Thank you.
So for these defensive guys who were, pounding the table for Schwartz, I'm sorry, you don't really have a say in who the next head coach is. So I think with Monken, out of all the remaining options, and there were, 3, I think he checked off the most boxes. He's older, he's been around college, he's been around pros, he's called plays. He's had a lot of success with the Ravens. And I think people don't forget, the Ravens wanted to draft Shedeur.
Yeah.
But Shedeur told them, hey, I want to start. I don't want to sit. You have a guy.
Right.
I don't want to sit and be a backup. I read the tea leaves as I'm sure Monken, when he was evaluating the quarterbacks when he was with Baltimore, he probably looked at Shedeur and said, yeah, I can work with this kid.
And, the interesting thing is Shedeur is a hell of a better passer than Lamar was when he came out of college, and Monken got it out of him. I had pretty much the same reaction when I heard about Todd Monken. Kind of disappointed about Jim Schwartz, but then I started getting online, reading all the different comments coming in. And Ross Tucker, his podcast, we'll give you a link. Mark will put a few of his quotes on, but I'll tell you, Ross Tucker, he nailed it. He said that Todd Monken was not getting the credit he deserved. And Harbaugh was hoping and praying that Todd Monken would be his OC with the Giants. In fact, he knows that for a fact because Harbaugh's been the head coach for the Giants, for just under a week? And they haven't interviewed any offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, they thought that it was like a slam dunk that Monken would go with him. To the
Yeah,
Giants.
and I think, Monken, if you just said, what is different with Monken versus Kevin Stefanski? They're both supposedly offensive wizards, right? We have some doubt. I have major doubts about that. I now have Kevin Stefanski lumped with Hugh Jackson in terms of quarterback whisperer. I don't think so.
But if I could push back, Stefanski was never high. He was never thought of as this offensive guru. He was thought of as a very organized, professional assistant who rose the ranks with the Vikings. But he wasn't on the same lines as a Ben Johnson, a Hugh Jackson, where he was a quarterback, like a guru.
Okay, well, let me push back on your pushback because Stefanski made his name when he coaxed great quarterback play out of Case Keenum. Keenum took over from Kirk Cousins, Vikings guy. Cousins was hurt. Case Keenum took the Vikings to the playoffs. And then they got creamed in the playoffs. That sounds familiar. Like the Texans got, hammered the Browns in the playoffs. But Case Keenum was running that classic Stefanski, bootleg, throw to the tight end offense. It was what you saw Baker starting to do, and then you saw it's just ad nauseum the play calling. He had the straitjacket on Joe Flacco, which is another difference that came out with Todd Monken versus Stefanski in his Monken's presser yesterday. Monken said, "I'm all about winning, period. I don't care who's got the ball, my grandmother, whatever. We're all about winning. We're all about figuring out what is the best group of players this game coming up that gives us the best chance of win." I never heard Kevin Stefanski say, this is about winning. It was always about coaching. Monken seems to be the kind of coach who is going to be open to a lot of variations and not bring his program schemes into this. When you think about Kevin Stefanski, it's run the ball, although he seemed to have been passing a lot more lately with his rookie quarterbacks. A lot of dink and dunk, a lot of tight end play. Tight ends thrive in that offense. People are complaining, well, we don't have any wide receivers. Well, again, I beg to differ. Is it really the wide receivers, or is it just the type of offense they run? Because I'll tell you one thing, when Flacco came in with the Superman cape in 23, I think it was 23. Is it 23 or? All of a sudden, they're throwing bombs. How does that happen? I thought we didn't have any receivers. All of a sudden, Njoku is reborn. Amari Cooper's throwing up 100-plus, days because Flacco just started winging it. It wasn't because Stefanski told Flacco to wing it. You never saw Baker throw bombs. You never saw them really just air it out. And I think that was Stefanski locked into his schemes and not open to change. And then, getting back to Harbaugh, who's the coach that's watching Lamar sleep in team meetings this past year? Because Lamar's playing video games. Brian Dable, Abdul Carter, late. Maybe John Harbaugh. Steve Bichetti, the Ravens guy, I've been very impressed with him. How he made his money. He seems to be a really good talent evaluator. I think he's looking at Harbaugh. I think he's looking at how Harbaugh, they never seem to win the big games. There was always some dumbass play. Lamar, late in the game would throw a crucial interception, a turnover. Certainly no Patrick Mahomes. And then you connect the dots to Lamar sleeping in team meetings and Harbaugh doing nothing about it. I think Bichetti saw that and said, you know what, this is not our head coach. And I think Haslam, I don't know. That's one of going to be the great mysteries. Maybe it'll come out like Deep Throat, Watergate. But one of the great, I'm thinking, I understand Haslam vetoed that young whiz kid. Right? That's what I'm hearing. What'd you hear, bro?
All I heard was that Barry really liked Shieldhouse, and Jimmy didn't.
You know what, Jimmy, if you're out there, maybe you send me a private secret note or something. You're listening to this podcast. Send me an email. He's listening to it. Jimmy, just do me a favor. It'll just be between you and me. Who was the guy who liked Deshaun Watson? Who liked Deshaun Watson? Was it Andrew Berry or was it Jimmy Haslam? And you know what? If Andrew Berry liked Shieldhouse, who really should be coaching college, who should have some who's never called plays, maybe he was the guy that pushed Watson. Maybe Jimmy, please, maybe you've learned. Maybe you said, no, we're not doing Shieldhouse. We're going with Monken. He worked with Monken.
Yeah, he was here.
Monken was here. Monken saw, along with Jimmy, the shit show when Freddie was head coach, which now it's starting to come out. That Freddie, they'd work on a game plan. Monken would set it all up. This is the game plan. And on game day, Freddie would throw it out the window and wing it like you're playing touch football. And you know who loved Freddie? Your boy, John Dorsey.
He's still my guy.
He's still your guy. So Haslam's looking at Dorsey and he goes, really, you think Freddie's the guy? And he goes, yeah, if you don't keep Freddie, I leave. Fine, leave. I think Haslam, I am praying that Haslam is going to figure out where to insert himself and when to say no.
I mean, you clearly saw that.
Yeah, and he got Monken.
Yeah.
He got Monken because he's seen Freddie. He got played by Hugh Jackson. He saw Banner and Lombardi in action. He fired them. He saw Ray Farmer interfere with Mike Pettin. He saw the whole Johnny Manziel thing, which of course his fingerprints is on. Haslam. Jimmy, collectively, you're older than Andrew Berry. You didn't go to Harvard, which means you don't think you know it all. And you figured out Andrew Berry, let Andrew Berry run the draft room, right? Did a good job. Let him run the cap. But, major decisions, now I got my doubts. And now he's got an adult, it sounds like he's got an adult room in Todd Monken who has a track record of turning around things. His college career, right, Mac? What was he doing in college with Southern Mississippi? Turned that program around.
Yeah, I think they had 0 wins before he took over. And his last year, they were like in a 9-win team.
Cignetti. Could be a Cignetti. You know what? Hey, Browns Nation, this could be a variation of a Curt Cignetti. A guy who's going to get in people's faces, who's going to demand some accountability. That doesn't sound like Kevin Stefanski. Go ahead, Brooke.
Well, I don't hate the hire. I think out of all the options, and it was 3, he was the best option, Monken. I wonder, though, if it's there's something to be said about, there were a handful of candidates who dropped out. Now, I don't know how common that is.
Well, they didn't like writing in their blue book. An
Yeah, that was a little-
essay question, right?
That was a little, you know. I took that as maybe a couple of these guys just saw the dynamic and were like, this just doesn't look right. It just doesn't feel right.
Well, Ross Tucker made a great point, and Mark, you can insert this. He said, and I never occurred to me. He said all these young guys, they all got agents. And this is a lot of agent hype. This is a lot of, I mean, what would an agent do to pump up a, what's this guy's name? Shieldhouse? Shieldhouse. And then you got Udinsky. You got all these young guns, right? These are these are the next coming of Pat Shurmurs.
Let's be honest. If I was Grant Udinsky, and you're my dad,
Which I am.
which you are, and you've got an option right now to work for the Cleveland Browns. Let's just say I'm from San Diego. You got an option to work for the Cleveland Browns, or in a year or two, Andy Reid says, hey, I'm done. Like, let's be honest, we're not a very desirable team.
And you know what? If you're an agent, you know what you're going to do?
You're going to hype that price.
You're going to hype the brand of your client, and you're going to say, he's not interested in the Browns. He's too good for the Browns. The Browns, really? No. Well, what does that say to the media horde out there? You're leveraging the dysfunctional Browns to boost the stock of your client. And Ross Tucker, thank you for that observation, because there is a lot of undercurrent here. I mean, really, if they can get a young client getting a 5-year deal as a head coach, what's the commission on that?
Yeah.
Really? That's some big time dollars. And I don't think I've really appreciated the dynamics there, because I keep saying to myself, how does this guy, Shieldhouse, who's never called plays in a real game, he's never managed anything, how does this guy become the man? And really, does Andrew Berry really, really like this guy? Or is that agent talk?
Yeah, so with Shieldhouse, I'm glad that they didn't hire him. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty bummed when Udinsky's name got pulled, because a lot of former coaches were talking about him and said, this kid, he's the real deal. So, the fact that he pulled out, and who knows, maybe the Browns told him, hey, you know what, we appreciate you taking some time, but we are gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah.
But, hey, you know what? With Todd Monken, I think it's just, and we've talked about this. Stefanski seems like a nice guy, but it is going to be nice to hear a different voice, a different kind of personality up there talking post game, pre game. I think you're going to see a guy who, he doesn't give a shit. He's been around other coaches.
Thank you.
He's been around different types of players.
Prima donnas. Yeah.
And, I'm saying it now, and I didn't think I would, but I don't think you're going to hear the last of Deshaun Watson.
Well, you need a Monken to handle Watson.
And
Because
again,
Udinsky's not going to be able to Watson. And in fact, you know what Monken's going to be, now that he doesn't have to watch what he says, because he, with the Ravens, he wasn't head coach. But I bet anything, if Todd, if you're listening to this out there, or Jimmy, what would you do if somebody was sleeping, a team leader was sleeping in your meetings? I know Tom Brady wasn't sleeping in the Patriots meetings. He was setting an example. the team leaders, the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds, Michael Jordan, they set the tone. Lamar Jackson sleeping in the meetings, that is bullshit. And Harbaugh should have called him out on that, not Monken. So I'm sure Deshaun Watson is going to sit down with Todd Monken and said, you know what? Listen, you keep playing the way you're playing. No, you're backup. Get the Josh McCown officially approved visor and a clipboard, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. And if you want to be a great coach like a Bill Belichick, you got to sit down Drew Bledsoe and promote Tom Brady. That was the making of Belichick. Belichick didn't win shit after Brady left. So you need a great head coach who's got a great quarterback. Now, that is a chicken and the egg dynamic, I believe. I think Shador and Primetime are so happy that Monken is the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
And Ross Tucker made another great point. And Mark, you can pick this up. He said in his podcast, he said he's so happy that the Browns stuck to their process. Didn't follow the siren song from the agents. Didn't follow the pack media. Tuned out the, quote, dysfunction of the Browns process, with the term papers and the essays and stuff like that, and grabbed a guy nobody was hyping as head coach.
No, I mean, I remember when they said we're interviewing Todd Monken, I was like,
what?
No chance. And the easiest answer is to just promote Jim Schwartz.
Right.
And they probably didn't like what he had to say in the interview process. And, so, yeah, I think, and who knows? I mean, Andrew Berry, he could have liked Monken the whole time.
Yeah. Maybe he's doing a head fake here.
We don't know.
Maybe he's doing a blowing smoke like he did. Maybe I should give some props to Andrew Berry. I mean, again, Jimmy, please send me that secret email. Did Andrew Berry really like Todd Monken? It's just between you and me. I'm not going to, on the souls of my grandchildren, I'm not going to.
Well, I think he clearly liked him because he got a second interview.
Right. Well, maybe Jimmy told Andrew, get a second interview here. But, okay, so look what Andrew Berry did this past draft. Travis Hunter. He is the man. No fucking way. We are not. This is a once in a lifetime thing. All he's doing is jacking that price up for Travis. And then Jacksonville comes along. And they did what they always wanted. Maybe, they're letting Udinsky and this and that and the agents. Maybe it's one big smoke screen for Todd Monken, which they always want. Now, here's another secret question for you, Jimmy, if you're listening. What was Jim Schwartz like in these interviews? Could it have been like, okay, Jim, thanks for coming. Great seeing you. Hey, Jim, what mistake did you make when you were head coach with the Lions? Jim's like, what mistakes? I just had bad ownership. I had a bad GM. Really? Is that what Jim said? Yeah. I hope he didn't say that.
I doubt that. I go back to what Jimmy Haslam said when they fired Stefanski. He made it very clear. He wanted a head coach who was skilled at offense.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you got what you wanted. I got what I wanted. You wanted an experience, someone
a leader.
Yeah, you wanted someone who's been around the block, who's been on different teams.
Bruce Arians.
Yeah. And I wanted someone who was often, who was a new type, someone who's going to bring life to that.
Right.
To that side of the ball. Because watching Stefanski's offense was like watching paint dry. I mean, it's so boring.
Yeah.
So boring.
And you got to ask, how is this guy a wizard? And why are we blaming the lack of talent? I mean, okay, hey, I know I'm not a head coach. I know I have, besides just being a devoted fan of the Browns for, 65 years. Okay, but I'm thinking to myself, listen, can we just throw some long passes if they got 8 people in the box? I mean, really? Okay, so we throw an interception. Okay, it's a 50-yard interception, right? It's like a punt.
Look,
Or we could get a pass interference. The guy could fall down. Our receiver could be open. They just wouldn't do it because they were just their mentality was so narrow.
I think, though, if you look at this team and you look at who's in the Super Bowl, you got the Seahawks, got the Patriots, 2 totally different teams. Patriots, young hotshot quarterback, number 3 pick,
Great coach.
Yeah, they got some skilled guys, but it's smart coaching and it's a good quarterback.
Right.
That's one team. You got the Seahawks. You got Sam frickin' Darnold, who was bounced around team to team, but they got that wide receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State, who is a superstar. And they have a defense that's great. So there is not one model to follow. I think you look at your team. I think if you're Todd Monken, like if you're me and I'm looking at this team, it's what does this team need? This team does not need another defensive end. This team needs wide receivers and offensive line.
Yeah. And we got 10 picks.
They got a great tight end. They
picked
defense.
up Monken right away, made a call to his O-line coach.
Yeah. They got the
Ravens O-line coach.
2 great running backs. This quarterback class is not great. I mean, honestly, I would go in the draft wide receiver, offensive line, wide receiver, offensive line. I would just stockpile and just be like, you know what? We're going to get the best players available in those 2 spots.
They might go into free agency and get a wide receiver.
I don't care.
I could see that happen.
Sure, yeah.
I could see that happen, and I could see them look. And this is where this draft coming up is going to be one of the most impactful drafts of all time. Going back to Jimmy, you got another opportunity here. You had it when we had 2 number 1s, right? And we absolutely blew that. We picked Manziel and we picked Gilbert. And within 1 year, they were out of football.
Well, and the next year, people forget about that. Wasn't it Danny Shelton and Cam Irving?
Yeah. Okay.
Those 2 drafts killed this team.
Yeah.
It put us back so far.
Right.
And Sashi Brown came in and was like, looking at what the Sixers did in basketball and be like, I'm sorry, we have to tank. We need as many high draft picks. And then Haslam picked a football guy in John Dorsey, got Baker, got Denzel, got Nick Chubb.
Got Miles. Miles came in.
Well, Miles was the year.
Number 1. He was part of that process.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I don't think there's clearly not one way to win in this league. I think you need to, if you get your coach right and if you get your quarterback right, you're pretty good.
Well, the Browns had the opportunity to get, and their report said, take Sean McGregor.
Who's Sean McGregor? McDermott?
I'm sorry, Sean McDermott. Take Sean, and Jimmy and D took Hugh Jackson. Right? And Hugh Jackson, happy, happy-go-lucky Hugh Jackson. Oh, the process, I'm all in. Yeah, I agree. This is brilliant, Jimmy. Yeah. Sashi, you're the man. You're the guy I've always looked for in terms of a GM. And of course, as soon as he realized he was losing, was bad for his record, he started crying to Sashi and saying, I need to get A.J. McCarron. That should have told you everything. If we had Sean McDermott instead of Hugh Jackson, and we were doing the process, within 2 years the Browns would have been the best. They would have been just lights out. Great. We have another opportunity. We have 2 number ones. We know Andrew Berry can run a draft room. He did it last year. You saw him with the number ones. He just nailed it. He's got 2 number ones now. And he's going into free agency. He knows how to manipulate the cap space. They're gonna let Njoku do. They're going to shed a lot of Conklin's gone to all these big, they're going to reduce cap. They're going to go in, and I think they're going to get a veteran wide receiver who respects Todd Monken, who works with Todd Monken, who can bring, can be a mentor to Judy, and then you're going to see Monken work on Judy, like Sean Payton worked on Russell Wilson. And I wouldn't be surprised if Browns went all in on best impactful players. I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted number 1 a linebacker.